Welcome back to the show and tell show. We've got everybody here from Penetanguishene Centennial and Huronia Museum in Midland. So let's see what we have, because our challenge this week was the letter S. So you threw out that challenge, Penetanguishene, so let's see what you have.
Okay. Oh, okay. All right.
Anna's going to be presenting our S.
Okay. We're really prepared this morning. All right. So our story, and I always seem to have a story when I'm starting, and it never actually is directly linking up with what I'm talking about, but we'll get there. Okay. So we're beginning this morning at the Penetanguishene Hotel, which does not start with the letter S, but eventually we'll get there. So the Penetanguishene Hotel, built in 1889, was a 5-star luxury hotel. Tourists came from as far away as Chicago, Pittsburgh, Boston, New York, and of course from Toronto. So this hotel boasted of, they had water closets indoors, pneumatic bells, telephones. They also had children and servants' dining rooms. So they would sit, dine separately from the parents. So one of the young ladies that would have probably dined in one of these children's and servants' dining rooms was a young lady named Dorothy Stacy. And Dorothy Stacy was an au pair with a family in Toronto. So she had the luxury of being included on the family's vacations, and they would come up to the Penetanguishene Hotel. So this young lady must have put a little bit of money aside for herself. And what she did, she eventually took away some souvenirs from the hotel. So there's our letter S finally. So she actually had like a whole beautiful little collection, starting off with a little tea plate.
Rude.
And on it says Souvenir of Penetanguishene. And it says the Dominion of Canada. And you can see represented there by a little beaver. And the beaver actually still has that elongated snout that used to be in old depictions of the beaver. So this is a China set that goes back to 1905. And it's from the Victoria Austrian Company. And if you look them up, they actually had a really wide variety of china that they offered. And she got herself a little teacup and saucer. And as well, she got herself the cream and sugar. So she must have done a little bit of saving, and she's really taken herself home a really nice souvenir set. Unfortunately, we don't know anything more about Dorothy or the family that she was with, but that is our little S story for today.
Oh, those are adorable.
Amazing.
She must have felt very privileged to have these. I'm sure she really treasured them.
I'm sure they were special to her, yeah.
Yeah.
What do we have, Genevieve?
Oh, I have brought in 3 scrapbooks, and this is only one of them. They were compiled by a woman named Helen Paul Monroe. She'd married in 1878 her husband, John Monroe. They lived over in Bolsover in Victoria County, although that was in 1878. 1883, they arrived in Midland with their 3 children. They had a few more. But these books are very representative of they were compiled between 1889 and 1902, and they're very representative of that Victorian era. So when I think of that era, 3 words come to mind. One of them is hodgepodge, the other is sentimental, and the last one is lots. And that's what you find in these. There's a lot of, let's see, I've got one right here actually. So she has compiled from different sources, probably women's magazines, family magazines, religious circulars, and the Midland Argus and the Midland Free Press. A lot of newspaper clippings. She's got trade cards like this one here for a laxative. There's also another one inside for a a Singer sewing machine. There's just an odd assortment of sort of sentimental and strangely, I guess, related colored images, probably some that are even from packets of seeds or seed packets like this one. I don't know why I was drawn to it, but this cucumber.
Oh.
Strange to find it beside a poetry about little brides in India and somebody's mother. So you've got a lot of, well, it's really eclectic. You've got a lot of sentimental poetry about home life, more on moral themes, things about wishing well, the meaning of flowers, but you've also got a lot of patriotic poetry and anecdotes about Canada and the British Empire. And what's really, really interesting is that there's a lot of stuff in here on the Boer War, the war in general, but then also the local reaction to the war. In one case, there was discussion about I guess the British had won or the Commonwealth had won a battle in Ladysmith. And so there was an impromptu parade in town. Someone grabbed his cornet and they started marching around town. Others followed, waving flags. There was a lot of cheering, bell ringing, train whistles blew. So there was a big to-do about that in Midland. But there's also a lot of really things of importance to a local historian. We've got a lot of weddings and obituaries, possibly people that she had gone to church with. She was a member of the Knox Presbyterian Church. Some people are more significant members of the town, some politicians, J.B. Harrell and his son William, who had died at a council meeting. He was standing in for his father. There is also two really interesting, and I'd never heard of these people. There's an interesting newspaper account of a fella named Hugh McConaughey. He apparently lived in Midland for a short while. I think he might have been on a Midland lacrosse team, but he ended up playing in New York and then in Ireland. That New York team had was doing a tour in Ireland. So Hugh McConaughey, I'd never heard of him before. And then further on in the book, there's also a really interesting account of a very violent hockey game between Collingwood and Midland. Apparently 4 train loads of people came from Collingwood to watch this game. There were 700 people standing outside because we didn't have an indoor rink at that time to watch this game. It was really violent. There was lots of bruising, cuts, surprisingly no broken bones. And the Collingwood team actually laid charges of assault against one of the Midland players whose last name was English. So, and there was a big to-do about that. Apparently they thought that it would have a huge effect on the manufacturers of Collingwood. Like a lot of people would boycott Collingwood business. So it was a big thing. I'd never heard about this. And one other note is that her husband eventually ended up buying the planing mills in town from someone called the Paul brothers. And that's possibly how they came from Bolsover to this area. Helen's maiden name was Paul, so this might have been owned by her brothers or uncles or something. I'm not entirely sure. I haven't researched it. Anyway, he bought the planing mill, and shortly after it caught fire, burned down, and I don't know if he was able to rebuild. He was hoping to get a loan from the town. So anyway, there's a huge amount of information there on a national interest, I guess, and local interest too. So it's really fun to go through.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you, Helen, for your compilation.
Those are treasure troves when you get them.
They're wonderful. Yeah. Yeah. You can
from a museum, perspective. Yeah. You get excited when you see those. So very neat.
And a hockey game such as that, and we worry about concussions and violence.
Exactly. And they didn't have the same equipment. I can't imagine just Yeah, there's lots of lacerations. There was a doctor on call, so he was stitching as they played, just like the NHL.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I wonder if fights broke out in the 700 people crowd as well.
I wondered. Well, there was a lot of money riding on it. Apparently, a lot of people showed up to place bets. So there were
Okay. Well, that always brings out the worst in people. Yeah.
So who won?
Midland.
Ah.
So I think Collingwood was a bit sore, and that's why they charged Mr. English with assault.
Wow.
Okay, so next week, I think because people are getting very excited about spring, it would be really cool if we could bring out some of our gardening collection.
Ah.
Because we have very active horticultural societies in North Simcoe, and I'm sure we have lots of really cool things in our collection. So that's our challenge.
All right.
Very good.
Cool. All right, it's always great seeing you.
You guys too.
I'm sorry, I'm getting feedback here. Sorry. So we'll see each other same time, same channel next week.
You betcha.
Very good.
Awesome.
Okay.
Bye, guys.
Bye.